Right now, with the current competition from small crossovers, small sedans and hatchbacks have to be especially compelling at an even more intriguing price in order for buyers to really be interested. That being said, the new Impreza certainly has a place in the market. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. That way you get quality content and I get closer to making this a full-time job. Thank you. Now, let's get on with the review. Up front, the Impreza has remained largely the same since 2017. Now, for 2020, they did do a mild refresh up front where they made the lower grille Now, the trims have remained the same with a few differences, mainly just applying to the manual transmission models, which I will post an in-depth review on the manual model specifically that will include all of the nitty-gritty stuff and a more extensive drive. So, subscribe for that one. Now with the Impreza, you're going to have the base trim, the premium trim, the sport trim, and the limited. The model that's next to me today is the limited trim. Key differences with that are going to be standard fog lights and LED steering responsive headlights. The rest of the trims will just get halogens. Premium buyers will also get fog light standard along with alloy wheels and body colored mirrors that definitely make the Impreza look less like an Uber in Denver. Base models are going to get 16-inch hubcaps. The premium trim gets 16-inch alloys as standard. This is going to have 17-inch rims, and if you get the sport, you're going to get 18s. Optional on premium trim and standard on sport and up is proximity key unlock. Just like limited buyers get chrome touches, the sport gets black accents throughout along with a fun spoiler treatment for the sedan, which I think it pulls off well. It also has exclusive suspension and transmission tuning to make it feel more race car on a back road without giving it the aggression of the much more capable WRX, which likes to club baby seals on its free time. Briefly, I'd like to thank the kind folks over at Royal on the Eastside for loaning me the Imprezas used in this review. If you're looking for something new, used, or just plain cool, check them out. Around back, you will notice the Impreza hatchback hides its tailpipes, whereas the sedan just lets it all hang out. While looks are subjective and some of you guys might find this to be pretty boring, I think that the exterior of the Impreza is refreshing. It's not really in your face in any regard at all, not even with the grille. It has a traditional appeal to it, but tell me what you guys think in the comments. The interior is where I think the Impreza starts to get dull, but its Subaru practicality shines through. While the interior's look isn't as intriguing as what I found in the Mazda3, or in the new Toyota Corolla, or even the Honda Civic, I think that Subaru has a great grasp of how an interior is actually used. They don't use an abundance of piano black plastics that easily attract fingerprints and scratches. The Impreza is full of plastic, much of which is hard touch, but it feels solid and the fit of everything is good. They give you a simple infotainment system. The base and premium trims are only going to get 6.5-inch screens, but if you get the Sport and Limited, you're going to have this nice 8-inch unit. Now, the base units are a bit too slow. The 8-inch unit isn't exactly blazing, but it's tolerable, more than tolerable. And if you're really familiar with any car UI, this one is going to be pretty easy to get used to. All Imprezas will have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto too. The base speaker system has only 4 speakers, but provides a decent experience. It lacks tweeters though, so the treble isn't really there. Many people will want an upgrade. The 6th speaker will serve you guys just fine. Nothing to write home about though. I found the Harman Kardon system, which is optional on Sport and Limited, to be a disappointment as it has no subwoofer and the quality does not stand out much from the regular 6th speaker. If you like sound, there is a Rockford Fosgate upgrade as an accessory, or you can just buy your own setup. To continue with features, you will have a 6-way manually adjustable seat as standard with the option to electrify it on Premium and Sport, which is standard on the Limited. Annoyingly, none have adjustable lumbar, so this seat will take time to get used to for some drivers, including myself. But you do get heated seats with the Premium trim and up, and leather is going to come on the Limited only. The Sport and Limited get a meaty leather wheel, but more notable is the Sport's multicolored cloth seats and red stitching throughout, which I personally enjoy. It pops a bit. The analog gauge cluster is clean too, unless you get the Sport, which makes it a little harder to read. Small note, I did find the armrests on the Limited to be plush, but the base and premium were less soft. As I mentioned earlier, optional on the premium trim is a proxy key, and that will also give you push button start. The Subi does have big cubbies for your stuff, but it also does fall short of multiple competitors in high-end features. No ventilated seats, no heated steering wheel, and no dual zone automatic climate control, just single zone on the Limited only. One last thing to note, you get an actual handbrake with the Subaru Impreza. Now when it comes to space, the Impreza is more than accommodating for my 6'3" frame. So I'm going to adjust myself in a comfortable position, and then I'm going to hop in the back. The back seat of the Impreza is adequate. My knees just barely scrape, but my head actually clears with little to no problems. Additionally, you have soft touch here where your elbows will rest. You have nice but not excessive storage. You do miss out on rear vents in all trims, which is a bummer. You're also going to have a decent sized transmission hump here, which I'm fine with because this is an all-wheel drive car. A center armrest comes on the Limited only, and heated rear seats are not available. More importantly though, the back seat is comfy and spacious for the class, and the hatch cargo area is kind of thick too. If you care about meaningless numbers, you're going to find about 20.8 cubic feet back here. The seats, of course, fold down 60-40 split, and they make for a reasonably flat loading area. So at this point, you've probably figured out that the Impreza is a pretty easy car to live with. And as you may have expected, this is an easy car to drive. But it also offers a feeling that a lot of other compact cars can't exactly grasp. If cars went to high school, the Mazda3 would be the kid that dresses up in a suit every Friday. They're overall pretty well put together. They seem more grown up than the average, and they're really trying to manifest the life that they want in the future. Whereas the Subaru Impreza is the kid that's already grown up and had a job since they were like 12. So what's at the heart of the 2021 Subaru Impreza? All models are going to be powered by the same 2-liter flat 4. It's going to make 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque. It is naturally aspirated, and it comes with all-wheel drive as standard. And this is true full-time all-wheel drive. A vast majority of buyers are going to end up with a continuously variable transmission. I have done a 0 to 60 run with the automatic, and I'll show it now. My time of 8.7 seconds is really good for a base model Subaru. I mean, it's much faster than the Outback and the Forester. Yes, this is the only engine, and yes, it is slower than most of the class, but not painfully so. The CVT does groan, and it has temperamental response at low speeds when you try to push it hard, but so long as you're not driving it above 0.6, it's smooth and draws no attention to itself. If you want to lie to yourself and shift the CVT, all but base automatic models have paddle shifters with 7 pre-selected ratios. Don't fancy a continuously variable transmission? Then hey, Subaru still offers a 5-speed manual. Now, I will do a full review on that model because it is quite special. My quick impressions of it is that I wish it was a 6-speed manual. The shifter is, well, very traditional feeling, has short throws, and the clutch is quite easy to operate. Plus, it still has an auto hold feature, which some people complain about. You are going to miss out on eyesight if you get the manual, and you can also only get it on the sport trim with the hatchback, or either the base sedan or hatchback. The manual has less parasitic loss than the CVT and is 75 pounds lighter. It feels more zippy than the auto once it gets rolling, but the loss at the launch has other outlets showing identical 0 to 60 runs for each transmission of at or just below 9 seconds. When it comes to gas mileage, people complain that they cannot achieve the EPA rating with the automatic, whereas my experience with the manual 2.0 Crosstrek was that I could get better mileage than the rating, so don't be too scared by the manual mileage unless you do a lot of higher speed highway driving. The lack of a 6th gear will tax you there. Now, I've been behind the wheel of the Subaru Impreza several times for this review, and I've driven both the limited and the base trim, and now I am in the sport trim. All of the models, hatch and sedan, have great visibility that is unparalleled in this class when looking out front, which lowers blood pressure during hectic situations. The sport trim, as I mentioned earlier, has an exclusively tuned suspension and 18-inch rims that make the ride a bit stiffer. Around a back road, which I drove it the last time and it was completely dry, the Impreza handles with confidence because it doesn't have much body roll at all, even though it does have a pretty soft suspension. The reasoning, it's got a pretty good platform underneath it, the Subaru Global Architecture, and then also has a boxer engine, which means due to the engine orientation, it's got a lower center of gravity than most other cars in its class, making the Impreza handle well, while also retaining comfort. I mean, even with these more low-profile wheels on here, the ride is more than reasonable, and with the 16-inch rims, the thing could go over giant potholes, and really it wouldn't disrupt the cabin. It was probably the most comfortable ride in a small car that I've ever witnessed. And if somebody asked me when it came to ride, if I would choose the Impreza or the Crosstrek, I think I would go with the Impreza just because it pretty much has almost all of the comfort, especially with those 16-inch wheels. Plus, you still have the excellent handling because the thing is closer to the ground. Now, the confidence of the Impreza is just impressive. Really just takes off and hooks in pretty much any kind of condition. And the steering also inspires confidence. It's still on the numb side. It's still on the numb side, but it's precise. And the weighting is light, but has a nice build-up to it that gives you a pretty accurate feeling of what the car is doing, despite there not being too much communication from the road to the driver. And when you combine this precision with the confidence of all-wheel drive and the really exceptional body roll of this thing, you got a pretty good package when it comes to handling. And then you top it all off with comfort, especially with those 16-inch wheels, and you really got a winner. Personally, I'd be fine with the ride of the sport trim. It's not punishing, but I think the softer ride of the other trims are more appealing because they still felt quite capable. I'd also like to mention I prefer the Mazda3 steering. It doesn't handle as competently as the Subi in my mind, but the steering feels more natural in the 3. Now when it comes to safety equipment, the Impreza is going to come with EyeSight standard if you get the CVT models. Blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert are optional on premium and sport, standard on the limited. Now when it comes to reliability, the Impreza has had a conflicting background, but right now the predicted reliability is pretty good. The issue with the background is that they used to have excessive oil consumption problems. Subaru in long history has had problems with head gaskets. According to a Subaru mechanic, they changed the material to fix that problem. I believe the excessive oil consumption issue was caused by a piston and ring setup that eventually caused ring failure, a problem many brands used to have, including Toyota. From my research, the issues have been fixed. Head gaskets haven't been a problem for the Impreza since 08 and 09, and excessive oil consumption hasn't been a problem for the Impreza since 2012 and 2013. Reliability, according to Car Complaints, Cars.com, and Consumer Reports, appears to be great, with the biggest weak point being in-car electronics like the infotainment system. This paired with the solid resale makes the Impreza a good investment as far as small cars go. My impressions of the Impreza is that it's a more mature vehicle than its appearance might allude to. The Impreza has its shit together. It handles rough roads like a more substantial vehicle, yet it still has a youthful nature to it. Yes, the engine and CVT transmission put a damper on emotion. The lack of lumbar adjustment can make things uncomfortable at first, and the interior lacks pizzazz and high-quality materials. But the Impreza makes a strong argument for itself. It has a poised ride and handles with comfort whether the road is silky smooth or a pothole-ridden mess. It's reasonably spacious and quite reliable. If you want something with spice, straight-line speed, or a fresh interior, the Impreza will probably disappoint. But if you just want a pretty damn good car that will last a long time and handle well, the Subaru Impreza deserves your attention. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.